In this pivotal hour, a divine red alert resounds across the spiritual realm, a clarion call carrying the urgent message of Archangel Michael, a heavenly proclamation meant to awaken hearts and minds to the weight of the present moment and the transformative opportunities poised before those who listen with faith and readiness. This message begins with a deep sense of urgency and divine selection, for Archangel Michael announces that this is not a casual season but one marked by the unmistakable stamp of divine appointment, a period in which those who have been chosen and prepared for a special breakthrough are now being summoned to step forward and embrace their unique spiritual mandate. The angelic call rings as a spiritual trumpet that breaks through the noise of daily life, inviting each listener into a place of renewed commitment and higher vision, not as passive observers but as active participants in a grand narrative that is unfolding. As storms swirl in the natural and spiritual atmosphere, Michael urges that these tempests are not merely random events but indicators that heaven's purposes are advancing and that a holy remnant is being gathered to enter a fresh chapter of destiny. With divine selection comes the necessity of spiritual warfare and resilience, for the forces of opposition never stand idly by when sacred assignments approach fulfillment. Therefore the listener is reminded to prepare the mind, strengthen the heart, and fortify the spirit, understanding that perseverance and unwavering faith will be essential to prevail. Delays and setbacks that once seemed like obstacles will reveal themselves as part of a deliberate preservation, shielding the faithful from traps laid in hidden places, and ensuring that each step forward aligns perfectly with the timing of heaven. Michael warns of hidden enemies and deceptive voices that masquerade as allies but seek to divert or dilute the mission. Discernment must be sharpened so that false promises and subtle compromises do not lure the chosen away from the straight path. Even in moments when pressures mount and resistance feels overwhelming, the listener is counseled to stand firm, recognizing that every challenge is an opportunity for the soul to rise in courage and for faith to be proven strong. As this divine alert unfolds, it moves into a season of breakthrough and restoration, for sudden and unexpected blessings are poised to overflow into the lives of those who have remained steadfast, ushering in not only personal victory but also a wider testimony of hope and renewal for many. The heavens declare that old restrictions are breaking, financial limitations are lifting, and spiritual barrenness is giving way to abundance, not by human effort but by the sovereign grace of God who delights to reward persistence. Yet this breakthrough is not random. It comes after a period of divine training and preparation where tests of character, integrity, and patience have refined the chosen like gold in a furnace, producing a resilience that can sustain greater responsibility. Obstacles that once appeared insurmountable will suddenly crumble, not through sheer force but through the quiet power of unwavering trust, as Archangel Michael and the host of heaven release strategies for acceleration and spiritual fast-tracking. In this process, each faithful heart will sense a call to deeper consecration, to let go of old wounds and to embrace a renewed vision that transcends personal ambition and aligns with the higher purposes of the kingdom. Failures of the past will no longer define the present, for the message of restoration speaks of lost years being redeemed and shattered dreams being pieced together into something even more beautiful than before. This is a time when divine justice will manifest, when schemes of the adversary will backfire, and when hidden plots will be exposed to the light, allowing truth to triumph over deception. As the script of heaven continues to unfold, the listener is drawn into the realm of spiritual warfare and victory, reminded that the enemy's tactics aim to suppress the brilliance of their destiny but cannot extinguish the flame kindled by divine promise. Courage is the watchword, for battles will not only be external but also internal, demanding the conquering of fear, doubt, and the subtle temptations that seek to erode conviction. Each challenge faced becomes an arena in which faith is tested and proven, where the believer learns that the greatest victories are often preceded by the fiercest struggles. Archangel Michael assures that the authority of heaven is greater than any earthly opposition, and that those who stand firm will witness the breaking of generational chains and the collapse of barriers that once seemed permanent. Strategies of darkness, whether visible or hidden, will falter before the steadfast light of divine truth, and the faithful will rise as overcomers, bearing witness to the unshakable power of God's promises. The narrative then shifts toward transformation and a new season, heralding the end of old cycles of disappointment, spiritual dryness, and limitation, and the dawn of a period marked by deeper purpose, clearer vision, and spiritual empowerment. The listener is invited to release the pain of the past and to embrace the new thing that heaven is birthing, trusting that every loss and delay has been a divine setup for greater gain. Relationships that were broken or uncertain will be clarified, with some alliances strengthened for mutual growth while others fade away to make room for divinely appointed connections. Justice will not be a distant hope but an imminent reality as wrongs are righted and the oppressed find relief. The restoration that follows will not be modest, it will overflow beyond expectation, touching not only personal circumstances but also the surrounding community, becoming a testimony of grace that inspires others to believe. As this season unfolds, the inner life of the listener will expand with fresh insight and holy boldness, equipping them to step into roles of influence and service that were once unimaginable. What once felt like heavy chains of limitation will give way to the lightness of freedom, and the heart will burn with renewed passion for the mission of love and truth. Through every line of this message the theme remains clear: heaven is moving, and those who respond with faith will experience a transformation that not only elevates their own journey but also becomes a beacon of hope for a watching world. This transformative journey now converges on the profound reality of prophetic alignment and continuity, for the message delivered by Archangel Michael is not a solitary declaration but part of a much larger pattern of divine orchestration in which every faithful heart plays an essential role. The listener is encouraged to see beyond immediate circumstances and to perceive how personal breakthroughs are woven into a tapestry of greater purpose that spans generations and even nations, reminding each soul that their obedience and courage today become the seeds of blessing for countless others tomorrow. This alignment requires an active posture of readiness, a willingness to be both hearer and doer, because the divine timetable moves with precision and waits for no hesitation. Each prompting of the Spirit, each gentle nudge toward compassion, justice, or service is to be embraced swiftly, for these are the steps that position the faithful within the rhythm of heaven's plan. Archangel Michael speaks of a sacred momentum building beneath the surface, a quiet but unstoppable river of spiritual change that carries those who surrender to it into places of influence and impact they could never reach through mere human striving. Such alignment calls for a heart that listens deeply, discerns accurately, and acts courageously, because prophetic seasons are both delicate and powerful, easily missed by those distracted by noise or doubt. The message underscores that this is not the time for passive observation or for being lulled by comfort. Rather, it is the moment to stand alert, to pray with expectation, and to move with the wisdom that comes only from close communion with the divine. As the faithful respond, they will find that opportunities emerge at precisely the right moment, doors open that had long been shut, and relationships appear that perfectly fit the next stage of their assignment, confirming that the hand of heaven guides every step. This process of alignment also carries a call to integrity, to live transparently and to let actions speak as loudly as words, for credibility is the currency of influence and the world longs to see faith expressed through consistent love and unwavering ethics. Archangel Michael emphasizes that those who carry this message must embody it, allowing their lives to be living testaments of grace and truth, for it is through authentic example that hearts are most deeply touched. The listener is reminded that prophetic fulfillment does not negate personal responsibility, rather it magnifies it, for with greater revelation comes greater accountability. Therefore each decision, whether large or small, becomes a sacred choice that either harmonizes with or hinders the unfolding divine melody. In this way the entire journey becomes a dynamic partnership between heaven and earth, where human willingness and divine power meet to create outcomes beyond imagination. As these themes of continuity unfold, the script returns to the vivid reality of spiritual warfare and victory, reinforcing that alignment with heaven inevitably draws resistance from forces of darkness determined to obscure the light. Yet these forces, however menacing, are ultimately powerless against the authority invested in those who stand in the name of the Most High. Archangel Michael urges the faithful to clothe themselves daily in spiritual armor, truth that guards the mind, righteousness that protects the heart, faith that extinguishes fear, and the Word of God that cuts through deception, so that every assault of doubt or discouragement is met with steadfast resolve. The enemy may attempt to sow confusion or division, but those anchored in love and truth will remain unshaken, becoming unassailable fortresses of hope. In practical terms, this means cultivating disciplines of prayer, worship, and community support, not as mere rituals but as lifelines of strength and clarity. Michael speaks of a coming wave of revival where households, workplaces, and entire regions will experience tangible shifts in atmosphere as light dispels darkness and hearts turn toward compassion and justice. This revival is not confined to traditional boundaries. It will flow through unexpected channels, schools, marketplaces, digital spaces, wherever willing vessels carry the flame. The faithful are called to be bold witnesses in these arenas, unafraid to speak truth with grace, to extend kindness in adversity, and to demonstrate peace amid chaos, for these are the unmistakable signs of the kingdom advancing. As victories unfold, there will also be personal transformations of remarkable depth. Habits that once bound the soul will break, generational cycles of pain will dissolve, and minds long clouded by fear will awaken to clarity and joy. Each triumph becomes a testimony that strengthens the wider community, proving that no chain is too strong for the power of divine love. Archangel Michael assures that even when the battle feels intense and the night seems endless, dawn is certain and the outcome is secure, for the Lord of hosts fights alongside his people. The listener is urged to remember that courage is not the absence of fear but the determination to act in spite of it, and that every step taken in faith sends ripples of hope far beyond what can be immediately seen. In this great drama of cosmic redemption, every prayer whispered, every act of kindness offered, every stand for justice taken becomes a weapon of light that pushes back the darkness and ushers in the promised day of peace. And so the divine red alert resounds yet again, not to induce panic but to awaken readiness, to remind the chosen that they were born for such a time as this and that heaven's resources are fully available to those who dare to believe. With hearts anchored in love and eyes fixed on the higher calling, the faithful march forward, confident that the God who began a good work will bring it to completion and that every promise spoken will be fulfilled in perfect time. As this unfolding narrative moves deeper into the realm of transformation and new season, the divine red alert spoken through Archangel Michael becomes an anthem of hope for all who have endured long stretches of waiting, disappointment, or seeming silence, declaring that the former limitations have reached their expiration and that a fresh horizon now rises bright before the faithful. Old cycles of frustration and deferred dreams are being broken as the spiritual climate shifts to favor new growth, and what once seemed like barren ground is now poised to yield an abundant harvest. The listener is invited to release every trace of regret, to forgive where bitterness once lingered, and to open the heart to the surprising goodness of God, whose plans have always included restoration and elevation beyond what human imagination could conceive. In this season, the refining fire that once felt painful is revealed as preparation for the weight of glory about to rest upon those who have remained steadfast, a glory that is not merely personal but communal, intended to overflow and inspire renewal in families, communities, and even nations. Relationships will realign under heaven's direction. Some connections will deepen in mutual purpose and trust, while others will fade quietly as part of the divine pruning that makes room for healthier growth. There is no need for fear when certain doors close, for Archangel Michael reassures that every ending is but the threshold to a greater beginning, every loss an invitation to new abundance. Justice will manifest with striking clarity, wrongs that have lingered in shadows will be addressed, schemes of oppression will collapse, and those who have suffered unjustly will witness vindication as truth rises like the morning sun. The restoration promised is not meager but overflowing, an increase so rich that it redeems years of struggle and even blesses future generations, making the faithful conduits of prosperity and peace. At the same time, the inner life of the listener is destined for expansion. Deeper wells of wisdom will open, spiritual perception will sharpen, and the heart will beat with a fresh rhythm of compassion and courage. No longer constrained by fear of failure or memories of past mistakes, the faithful will step boldly into opportunities that once felt impossible, finding doors wide open and resources miraculously provided. This is a season to dream again, to create, to serve, and to build with a vision that honors both heaven and earth, knowing that every righteous desire planted by God carries the power of fulfillment. The divine message then circles back to the ongoing necessity of prophetic alignment and continuity, reminding that this surge of blessing is not an isolated event but part of an eternal storyline that interweaves individual callings into a grand design of redemption. To remain in harmony with that design requires continual attentiveness, a daily yielding to the gentle guidance of the Spirit, and a commitment to integrity that keeps motives pure and actions consistent with the love proclaimed. Archangel Michael encourages the faithful to treat every ordinary moment as sacred, to see each conversation, each decision, and each opportunity for service as a thread in the tapestry of God's unfolding plan. In doing so, the listener becomes a living prophecy, a walking testimony of the kingdom at work, influencing others not by mere words but by the unmistakable fragrance of a life transformed. This alignment is sustained through spiritual disciplines that anchor the soul, prayer that listens as well as speaks, study that nourishes the mind with truth, fellowship that provides encouragement and accountability, so that the momentum of heaven is not lost to distraction or complacency. And yet, even amid the joy of new beginnings and the serenity of alignment, the reality of spiritual warfare remains, for darkness does not yield territory without resistance. Archangel Michael therefore continues to impart strategies for victory, urging believers to maintain vigilance and to wield spiritual authority with humility and confidence. He reminds that the battle is not against flesh and blood but against unseen powers that seek to distort truth and sow division, and that the weapons of warfare are not physical but mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds. Faith becomes the shield that extinguishes every flaming arrow of doubt, hope becomes the anchor that steadies in the storm, and love becomes the force that disarms hatred and fear. The faithful are called to stand together in unity, for there is exponential power when hearts and voices join in intercession and praise, creating an atmosphere where the enemy's schemes cannot thrive. Each victory, whether small or great, sends ripples of light into the surrounding world, breaking chains of oppression and opening eyes to the reality of God's presence. As these victories accumulate, they form a testimony that cannot be ignored, a living proof that the kingdom of God is advancing and that the gates of darkness cannot prevail against it. Archangel Michael speaks of a rising generation of warriors who will carry this fire into every sphere of influence: education, art, technology, governance, bringing creativity, justice, and compassion to places long bound by apathy or corruption. Their courage will inspire others to stand, their humility will invite collaboration, and their joy will draw many to the light. The listener is urged to recognize that this calling is not reserved for a select few but is available to all who say yes. For every person who embraces the divine invitation becomes a vital part of the unfolding victory. In this way, the divine red alert concludes not as a note of fear but as a triumphant anthem, proclaiming that heaven's purposes are unstoppable, that the faithful are fully equipped, and that the glory of God will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. As the divine red alert reaches its magnificent finale, the message of Archangel Michael resounds with even greater clarity, assuring every listener that the journey they have traveled, through urgency, breakthrough, spiritual warfare, and prophetic alignment, has been leading to a moment of profound empowerment and lasting impact. This is the hour when seeds long planted in faith begin to blossom in breathtaking ways, when prayers whispered in the midnight of trial are answered in the daylight of fulfillment. The faithful stand on the threshold of a destiny far richer than anything they could have engineered through human effort alone, for every twist of the path, every delay, and every challenge has been a divine preparation for a life that bears eternal fruit. Now the call is to live fully awake, to recognize that each day is a sacred opportunity to release light into a world that often feels heavy with darkness, to embody the courage and compassion that mark those who walk in step with the Spirit. Archangel Michael speaks with tender strength, reminding that transformation is not only about personal blessing but also about becoming a channel of restoration for others, lifting the weary, comforting the brokenhearted, and speaking truth where lies once ruled. This is the essence of the new season, a people so rooted in love and so attuned to the voice of heaven that they carry peace into conflict, hope into despair, and wisdom into confusion, becoming living answers to the prayers of the world around them. As this era unfolds, creativity will flourish like spring after a long winter. Ideas and innovations inspired by divine insight will shape culture, heal divisions, and point hearts toward higher purpose. Families will find reconciliation, communities will experience renewal, and even nations will feel the quiet revolution of grace as kindness and justice spread through everyday acts of faithfulness. The listener is encouraged to keep their spirit open and their mind clear, for new instructions will continue to come, sometimes as a gentle whisper in prayer, sometimes through the wise counsel of trusted companions, sometimes in the unexpected nudges of opportunity that bear heaven's fingerprints. Every assignment, whether grand or humble, matters in this unfolding tapestry. Nothing offered in love is ever wasted. And while opposition may still appear, the promise remains certain. Those who stand firm in truth will never stand alone, for the hosts of heaven remain ever near, empowering, protecting, and guiding. Archangel Michael urges a daily rhythm of gratitude, for thanksgiving keeps the heart soft and the eyes sharp, allowing the faithful to recognize miracles both great and small. Gratitude transforms ordinary moments into holy ground and turns even challenges into testimonies of grace. The faithful are called not only to receive but to give, to pour out encouragement and wisdom as freely as they have received it, creating a cascade of blessing that multiplies far beyond their immediate reach. This is the enduring legacy of those who heed the divine red alert. They become carriers of light whose influence outlives them, whose love ripples across generations, and whose steadfast faith reshapes the world in ways they may never fully see this side of eternity. As the angelic message draws to a close, the invitation is clear and urgent yet filled with joy. Embrace the fullness of your calling, live with bold compassion, and trust that every step you take in faith is a step that advances the great story of redemption and hope. Do not shrink back in the face of uncertainty, for the one who calls you is faithful and will accomplish all that he has promised. Lift your eyes to the horizon and see that the dawn has already broken. The time for hesitation has passed and the season of fulfillment is here. Carry this revelation into every conversation, every decision, and every endeavor, letting your life shine as a testament to the unstoppable love and power of God. And as you continue on this path of awakening and service, stay connected with voices that encourage and inspire your journey. If this message has stirred your heart and you desire to keep walking in the strength and insight of these divine truths, I warmly invite you to join the growing circle of seekers and overcomers at Archangel Inspire on YouTube. There you will find ongoing reflections, teachings, and uplifting content designed to keep your spirit sharp and your hope strong. A community where wisdom and encouragement flow freely for every step of the adventure ahead. Subscribe today to Archangel Inspire, not as a mere action but as a declaration that you choose to live awake, to stay equipped, and to keep your heart tuned to the higher calling that Archangel Michael has so powerfully proclaimed.